Hi, I'm Bill Wilt of Assured Research. Thanks so much for joining this quick hit video where we focus on one research note drawn in this case from our June 2025 Assured briefing. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not a subscriber and you enjoy this content, this video and others at our YouTube site, feel free to reach out. We would be happy to put you and your colleagues on a trial to our research. In this note, we focus on the relationship between workers' compensation and Medicaid. The reason being, if it's not obvious, this video is being recorded in the latter part of May. Medicaid is a meaningful point of contention in the budget talks and the budget proposal. So there is the possibility that some portion of those who have gained coverage over the last almost decade now, with the expansion of Medicaid, some 20 million people, it's thought, that some portion of those could lose their Medicaid coverage. And the question is, for those individuals, some of whom will be eligible for workers' compensation, might they then start to file claims under workers' compensation? So we've evaluated this a number of times in the years after the Affordable Care Act was passed, we'll share with you what we observed then and are observing now. And if you'll bear with me, I'll just share the screen and we'll get right to it. Okay, hopefully you're seeing now the full screen. So there we are. So the workers' comp loss and loss adjustment expense ratio in the states that expanded Medicaid versus those that didn't. You recall under the Affordable Care Act that there were financial incentives from the federal government for states to expand Medicaid, and something like 30 plus states took that opportunity, but about 10 states did not. So it afforded a nice opportunity to evaluate the workers' compensation results in states that expanded versus those that didn't, blue versus red. And if we put ourselves back in the 2018-2019 timeframe, our observation was that states that expanded Medicaid were experiencing a faster decline in their workers' compensation loss ratio, a faster decline and maybe a steeper or a deeper, I should say, decline in the workers' comp loss ratio. I'll just call it that. Roll forward now to 2025. We have data through year end 2024, and in the two arrows there, we're pointing out that now there is, over the last handful of years, there really hasn't been much difference in the workers' comp loss ratio in states that expanded versus those that didn't. We've upped our statistical game a little bit since the 2018-2019 timeframe, and these next two slides show what we've done. So the question is, with an eye toward the possibility that some of the gains in Medicaid could be reversed, not forecasting Armageddon here, just saying that the changes that are being discussed are more likely to shrink rather than grow Medicaid enrollment. It's worthwhile looking again at the changes that happened from 2014 forward, that being the year when the Medicaid expansion started to take place. And when we look back now over this full period of time, 14 to 24, and kind of ask again the question, is there statistical evidence to demonstrate or to support the hypothesis that the expansion of Medicaid helped workers' comp loss and loss adjustment expense ratios? The answer is less clear than it seemed to be from the 2018-2019 perspective. On the left, states that expanded and the variability in their loss ratio, across the 30 plus states that expanded, and on the right, states that didn't expand, and again, fewer states, only 10 of them, but the variability in their loss ratio. Not a whole lot of difference. Obviously, there's more variability because there are more states among those that expanded versus those that didn't. But the loss ratios really look pretty similar, and their current landing place of a loss ratio in the low 50s is basically the same. When we remove the temporal trend, I mean, all workers' comp loss ratios, whether states expanded or didn't, have tended to decline over the last decade. So when we remove that temporal relationship between loss ratios and time, and just look at the residuals and then plot the residuals again by year across, again, states that expanded on the left and states that didn't on the right. The residual plots really look very similar, and one would think that if the expansion or not expansion was a real source of differentiation between these states, one would think that the residual plots would look different, and in fact, to my eye, they look more or less the same, acknowledging slightly different levels of variability. So, what's it all mean? It means that, the title of our note is, we're less worried about changes to Medicaid than we might have otherwise been. A little more pithy than that, and that's the message. That's the message from the data. I would say intuition, experience, talking with lots of folks over, in recent times and over years, I would think that to the extent that changes in Medicaid result in, a modest, anyway, shrinking of the Medicaid rolls, that's got to lead to some increase in workers' compensation claims. Maybe it's medical only claims, maybe it's claims, claims of lower severity, where there would be some fluidity as to whether a person could make a claim under workers' comp or file a claim under Medicaid. So maybe not particularly expensive, particularly severe claims, and that's why that kind of gets absorbed into the loss ratio, priced for quickly, and not a meaningful influencer of the loss ratio. But the bottom line we would share here, I guess, is the good news is that based on what we know now, it doesn't feel like changes in Medicaid will have a really consequential impact on the workers' comp loss ratio in 25 or perhaps into 2026. So I hope you found that useful. Our pleasure sharing, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Reach out if you'd like to try out to our work. Bye for now.